Good morning, and thank you for attending today. My name is Nadia Abu-Zahra, and I am a professor of international development and global studies at the University of Ottawa. I am here today as a representative of Palestinian Students and Scholars at Risk, PSSAR, the primary organization in Canada assisting students in Gaza with navigating university applications and visa processes. Today we are joined by two professors, Aaron Shafer, Assistant Professor, Forensic Science at Trent University, and Diana Allan, Associate Professor, Anthropology and the Institute for the Study of International Development, the ISID, at McGill University. We also have Ahmad Al Qadi from the National Council of Canadian Muslims, NCCM, joining us. Each speaker will share brief remarks, after which we will conclude with mine and then open the floor for questions. For members of the media, we kindly request that you email info@pssar.ca with your contact information so we can share updates and follow-up materials regarding this important issue. I now invite Aaron Shafer to the podium.
My name is Aaron Shafer. I'm an associate professor at Trent University and the supervisor of a student trapped in Gaza. Last week, university campuses across Canada began their fall semester. Hundreds of thousands of students returned to the classroom after a summer of work, play, and family. And while thousands of students are sitting in lecture halls at this very moment, some 70 students in Gaza, all of whom are top scholars accepted into leading graduate programs in Canada, are huddled in tents and destroyed homes, many without food or water, hoping one day they will be able to join their classmates here in Canada. I have supervised over 20 graduate students, half of whom are international. None have encountered the visa obstacles faced by Palestinians. Their visa experiences are marked by delays, bureaucratic inaction, and abandonment by Canadian officials. We have been told that biometrics, literally a photo and fingerprints, is causing the delay. Yet other countries have found alternatives. We were then told there are no border exits, yet France and the UK have found ways to secure safe passage. It has become clear there is simply no political will. And the reason for this, the reason for the inaction, because these students are Palestinian. My student's name is Wasim. We text regularly, and the questions are the same. How is your family? Do you have food? Have you heard about your visa? Each time we text, I'm amazed at his resolve and the hope that remains. One text read, and I quote, "We have no food, but I'm happy because the larger family next door received supplies last week." He has no electricity, yet last week asked me, and again I quote, "Can I start my studies remotely?" He's starving, yet found the energy to tell his story on Canadian radio last week. Wasim is a leader, and I am fortunate to have him joining my lab. But with each passing day, each passing week, and for some, each passing year, Wasim and the other students have heard nothing from the IRCC. Their visas remain in limbo, their dreams remain on hold, and that hope is beginning to fade. And for Sally and Dahlia, the twin sisters from the University of Waterloo killed, waiting for their visas, that hope is now gone. Over 800 academics have signed open letters to the Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, Lena Diab. She has not replied. That is why we are here in Ottawa today asking the Prime Minister's office to respond. Uphold UN conventions and international law, process their visas. These students are global leaders in research and education, and when given the chance, they will help Canadian research prosper, and they will return to Gaza to one day rebuild it. So I conclude by asking the Prime Minister Carney directly, bring Wasim and his classmates to Canada, process their visas, secure safe passage, uphold Canada's commitment to human rights and international law, and give Gaza hope. I will now introduce Dr. Diana Allan.
Good morning. My name is Diana Allan. I'm a professor at McGill University and a scholar of Palestine. I join you today as the McGill faculty representative of Palestinian Students and Scholars at Risk. I want to make several points. One, we are talking about 70 brilliant young Palestinian scholars from Gaza who, on the strength of their contributions and promise, have won places and in many cases full scholarships to study at Canada's finest universities. 5 of them have been admitted to McGill University. Their fields of distinction range from neuroscience and biochemistry to mathematics and artificial intelligence. We have everything to gain from them and nothing to fear. 2, the additional security measures delaying the processing of visas for these students and preventing them from coming to Canada are Jim Crow-like in that they target Palestinians as a group while masquerading as routine, bureaucratic, and colorblind. These policies are discriminatory and inhumane. 3, in tolerating these mechanisms of exclusion, we risk not only denying these scholars the opportunities they've earned through merit and hard work and denying ourselves and our universities their promise, we risk seeing them killed, entangled in racist red tape, their blood on our hands. These incoming students of ours do not have the luxury of time. In thinking about what we owe these scholars at risk, we would do well to remember previous generations of refugee intellectuals who similarly fled genocide in the middle of the last century and who, finding safe harbor in North American universities, contributed so enormously not only to the lasting legacy of those institutions, but to science, culture, art, and industry of their own time. And we would do well to think about our own legacies and what Canadian universities will look like when the dust settles and the blood dries. Canada's legacy as a haven for scholars fleeing persecution is at stake in this moment. With that in mind, I'll say a few words about one of these students, Majd, a mathematician who has been admitted to the MSc program in computer sciences at McGill, and who will be working with my colleague, Professor Kaleem Siddiqui. Majd and I have been communicating in recent weeks about the challenges she's facing, the risks she's running with every day that passes, and the hope and faith and ambition she continues to maintain in the face of it all. Majd is currently living in Deir el-Balah, just south of Gaza City, where she works as a maths teacher with displaced children. She wrote this in an email to me. I am living in Gaza where there is war and famine. The Rafah border has been closed since May 2024. I cannot leave the country to get my biometric information processed, and no office exists in Gaza. I still have some hope that I can be evacuated and start my studies at McGill University. Not only is my future in your hands, but my life as well. McGill is not just a scholarship or a university to me, it represents my entire future. I am just a young woman who hopes to live and study in peace. With each passing day, I lose a little hope of being evacuated. But can I afford to give up? The alternative is a nightmare. Living and studying in Canada was a dream. Then it became my reality, and now it feels like it's slipping back into being only a dream again. Majd, like other Gazans admitted to graduate programs in Canadian universities, are a great asset, and we are lucky to have recruited them. They are the future leaders, educators, and builders of Palestinian society, and they have much to contribute to our own. Welcoming them is not charity. It's about a statement of Canada's best values. Other countries have begun to recognize their responsibilities and to streamline their processing for visas for students from Gaza. Canada needs to decide whether it will join them or follow in the more brutal and racist footsteps of its neighbor to the south. We call on Prime Minister Carney, Minister Diab, and the federal government to expedite the visas for Gazan students and to facilitate their safe passage to Canada. I now invite Ahmad Al Qadi to the podium.
Thank you. And good morning. My name is Ahmed. I'm a Government Affairs and Public Policy Officer at the National Council of Canadian Muslims. And I want to thank the PSSAR and all of you for gathering today to hear this important update and message about Palestinian scholars and students. As many of you know, as we speak today, many students in Gaza who have been promised a warm welcome in Canada cannot get into the country to join millions of students or thousands of students who are getting back to school this week and last week. They have been promised entry, but their transition has been marked by bureaucratic delays and, frankly, abandonment. Specifically, these students in Gaza, who have been facing almost 2 years of indiscriminate bombing and displacement, and continue to live inside a humanitarian disaster, are asked to perform next to impossible tasks in order to be admitted into Canada, and then told that it's just not possible. For instance, in order to be admissible to leave Gaza and be approved for security screening, you have to have your biometrics completed. However, as mentioned, there are no biometric centers in Gaza. In fact, practically more than 90% of Gaza's entire infrastructure has been decimated. And yet these students are expected to have their biometrics in order to leave Gaza and cannot leave Gaza because, well, they don't have their biometrics done. They cannot go to Egypt or Jordan or any third-party country that can complete these biometrics. It sounds confusing. It sounds ridiculous because it is. Recognizing this, countries like France and the UK have created workarounds. Canada has not. France and the UK have also taken advantage of the recent fact that Israeli authorities have allowed these students to exit Gaza. Canada must do the same. Here at home, it's time for our government, especially at the Immigration Department, to act with a sense of urgency for the students and children of Gaza. There must be real leadership shown at the ministerial level, along with better coordination within government to receive students in Gaza who have been given a chance to study here. This means meeting with the appropriate community stakeholders, including those within the academic community. There has been a chorus of calls for our leaders to do so, including public letters. There needs to be follow-up, and it needs to happen now. What we don't need is more bureaucratic delays in the form of blame between ministries or agencies. These students in Gaza deserve a chance, just like any other student across the planet. They deserve to be offered what they earned. They do not deserve endless circles of excuses. This means that we need to see either the Minister of Immigration or the Prime Minister's office to step in and waive the need for biometrics completion in Gaza and allow students to travel to Egypt or Jordan or any third-party country and complete their biometrics. This means expediting applications for students in security screenings. Frankly, it's in Canada's best interest to follow the example of our allies and do the same. Treat the matter with the measures that are needed, not wishful thinking. Thank you. And I'd now like to pass it back to Dr. Abu-Zahra.
While campuses across Canada are buzzing with energy, lectures, and new beginning, Gaza's universities lie in rubble. All 12 have been destroyed. But despite this genocide, this displacement, and a man-made famine, Gaza's students did not give up. Over 70 of Gaza's most talented youth were accepted into Canadian universities in fields like medical research, artificial intelligence and engineering, climate science and sustainability, and education and public health. These are not asylum seekers. These are high-achieving students accepted on academic merit. I have worked with some in the past who came to Canada, and our university has always benefited from their academic accomplishments. At Palestinian Students and Scholars at Risk, PSSAR, we've worked closely to support these students. We are active in coordinating with universities, fundraising for living costs, and preparing legal memos, policy briefs, and stakeholder submissions. This has been a very difficult process, as students have been displaced multiple times, lost communication with us, and over 20 have been injured, and 2 have been killed. These students have done everything asked of them. They have submitted complete applications. Many have even completed biometrics. Some completed biometrics before the war, in past applications. Others completed biometrics in Egypt after crossing the border. We are here to ask Canada to do its part, because Canada has failed to provide these students with visas and support their evacuations. The government's claim that biometrics and evacuation are bogged down in bureaucratic red tape appears instead to be a choice to not support these students. Because as Canada continues to make excuses, we have seen France has evacuated over 115 students. Ireland announced in August it evacuated over 50. And the United Kingdom just introduced special biometric exemptions for students from Gaza. In fact, just last week, one student admitted to the University of Regina got a UK visa within a week after waiting over a year for Canada. Italy has announced its commitment to accepting Gazan students. And how has Canada fared? No evacuation, no exemptions, no urgency. The academic community has submitted a joint letter from more than 70 Canadian professors who have admitted these students. Another joint letter was signed by over 800 academics. Members of the academic community have provided multiple media briefings, legal memos, and meeting requests. Minister Lina Diab has not accepted a single meeting. No response, no timeline, no accountability. This should have been the back-to-school season that included Gaza's brightest minds. Instead, Canada is denying them a future and a hope of surviving this genocide. We urge the Government of Canada to 1. Reverse biased visa policies. 2. Expedite security screening. 3. Create a biometric exemption upon exit of Gaza. And 4. Arrange evacuation routes. It is time to stop blaming process and start acting on principle. Every day these students remain trapped is a day Canada loses its moral voice. It is time to step up and not to step away. Thank you. We will open the floor now for questions from journalists.
So we will go ahead with the questions. If you are on Zoom and you have a question, I'd ask you to simply virtually raise your hand so I can identify you. On va maintenant passer à la période des questions. Si vous êtes sur Zoom, je vous invite à lever virtuellement votre main pour que je puisse vous identifier. There are no questions. Il n'y a pas de questions. Il y en a une? Oh, yes, we do. Sorry. Anna Dolu Agency, you can go ahead.
Good morning, and thank you so much for this press conference, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. I have a question that could be answered by anyone in the room. Dr. Allan warned that Canada's inaction would leave quote-unquote blood on our hands. So if nothing changes in the coming weeks, because from what I'm understanding, there's no changes yet, and more students die waiting in Gaza, unfortunately, what accountability should Canadians expect from Ottawa? Thank you.
I think the example that students who have been accepted to Canada and are still waiting, and yet what has saved them is another country, that is an example that Canada is essentially issuing a death sentence to these people if they are not brought here, and that another country is saving their lives. Canada's policies on refugee admissions and welcome to Canada changed after the body of a small child was washed up on shore, and his photograph was spread all across. And Canada changed its policies. That photograph potentially affected elections. It changed an entire generation, people who I teach now in university. So everyone remembers that child. Everyone remembers that that child could have been in Canada had the processes allowed. And then when he was not brought here, he died at sea. And no one thinks that there is no accountability in that. Everyone thinks that we could have saved him and chose not to. I think this is the time when we need to look at bright students, future scholars, researchers, brilliant minds. We need to see them, and we need to see that their lives are in immediate danger, that two of them have been killed while waiting, and that we cannot wait any longer. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
We have another question on Zoom. Sebastian from Peterborough Examiner. Go ahead.
Hi, and thank you very much for taking my questions. Sebastian Johnson-Lindsay from the Peterborough Examiner. I've been doing a little bit of reporting on this, and I'm just curious if anyone here can speak to the role of universities themselves and university administration in lobbying the federal government to bring these forward, and what your experiences have been on that front. Thank you.
Universities have influence. When the federal government makes decisions on study permits, on who receives them and who does not, they have immediate financial consequences and academic consequences as to whether our classrooms are or are not enriched by international students. And when universities see this, universities respond. Universities have numerous advocacy groups that represent universities in provinces, in territories, and federally. And these groups are active. Their full-time job is to liaise with government officials and to consider the impact of federal policies on universities, on colleges, on academic institutions. Universities have voice, and universities can and will use it. Thank you for your question.
If there are no more questions, this concludes the press conference. Ceci met fin donc à la conférence de presse. Merci.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Miigwech.